right, we will go on to debate question 4. And basically, it relates in a way to parking the downtown, but it also relates to redevelopment in the downtown, so the downtown core revitalization. Really quickly, I'll summarize it. There's many buildings in the downtown area that were over 100 years old, built in the 1910s, 20s, through the 1950s. Some people believe that these 60 to 100-year-old buildings provide a unique character and scale to the Hermosa Beach downtown area. So the downtown core revitalization, they're proposing numerous incentives where if somebody owns a building currently, you can imagine an older building in the downtown area, for him to knock it down, he's going to have to put parking on the first floor or dig under and put parking. So there's parking requirements when he builds a new building. And one of the proposals to stimulate the downtown is to remove or reduce the parking requirements. And of course, this would stimulate the knocking down of buildings, and the most likely ones to go would be the older ones. So in the documents that I'm talking about, downtown core revitalization, and other documents, they're talking numerous times about increasing incentives and reducing parking requirements or eliminating parking requirements in order to build a building. So this will be for Trent. Question 4, what's your opinion regarding the reduction of parking requirements, zoning modifications, or any incentives that promote the demolition and redevelopment of 60 to 100-year-old single-story commercial buildings in the downtown area? How many of these older buildings, these older single-story buildings in the Hermosa Beach downtown should be knocked down and replaced with modern multi-story buildings? Trent?
Yeah, could you repeat the question again?
Yeah, I could do. This is one of the ones where they got a lot of material on.
I believe that downtown Hermosa has a tremendous amount of character and charm, and I think it is uniquely different than any place else around the area because of our old downtown look and the old buildings. I don't believe it works exactly as the way Al said in the question. I believe it takes an owner, it takes an entrepreneur, it takes a vision, it takes development, it takes money, financing, all of these things. And while I do think we should relax our parking standards for somebody who owns a restaurant and wants to add a new kitchen or some tables, that doesn't mean that building's going to be knocked down and replaced. What it generally means is that the owner's going to have money to do what he wants to do to expand so that we all have a nicer place to eat and we have new tables to sit at. That's what I think happens. I think people move to Hermosa, especially business owners, because they like the small town, they like the character, they want to be a small business owner, and they like the fact that it looks the way it does. So in just relaxing the parking standards to some degree, I don't believe that just says everything's going to get mowed down and replaced. I don't believe that for a second. So inherent in the question, I think it's a little bit of bias, but I would be in favor of relaxing some parking standards to some degree so that our small businesses can make their place nicer and use their capital on their building and not on a fictitious space that's not even created.
Thanks, Trent. Pete?
Thank you. As we all know, parking has always been a big topic of discussion in Hermosa Beach. Many cities, such as Manhattan, do not have requirements for these business districts. When a business comes in, they're told the parking is the parking, and they seem to thrive down there. Maybe we need to look at that. It's not asking someone to provide more parking in that area, as we all know, is very restrictive and really discouraged a lot of businesses. Let's remember, too, that to ask a property owner to tear his building down, he's going to kind of say, well, I own the building free and clear, and I'm getting a whole lot of rent out of this. Why should I tear my building down? Most of the parcels downtown are small, and some share common walls. So to tear one building down, you might have to tear the whole block down to assemble what we'd like. How much do we want to tear down? I don't know. Maybe what we ought to look at is asking and facilitating an expedited plan, check, and building permit process for the businesses down there, and ask, look at our zoning and move the facades, allow them to move their fronts or their store facades out maybe a foot into the right-of-way as we do with residential. But all in all, Balboa, Huntington have the same types of buildings and parking supply as Hermosa. Let's not lose the sight of our heritage and our beloved beach culture. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Stacy?
The answer is no. I don't promote or support the demolition of old buildings in our downtown. We also have a voted on height limit downtown that limits what can be built down there. Building owners have various property rights that, unless we want to entangle ourselves in litigation as a city, we don't want to infringe on as a council. But we do have a problem with our current parking requirements, and we saw another retail space disappear on Pier Avenue earlier this year because of our restrictive parking requirements. In this case, it made more sense for an existing business owner to expand their offices to the building next door rather than building the second story on their existing building because of the high cost of in-lieu fees in the latter scenario. The result, it's one less retail space on Upper Pier Avenue now. As we adopted and plan Hermosa, we hope to provide incentives to property owners to preserve their buildings if they so choose. And also in Plan Hermosa, we wanted to provide them a financially prudent way to expand their property that retains retail on the ground floor and office space above. Council is scheduled to discuss parking requirements in our downtown in the coming months, so this issue will be addressed soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. Matt?
Thank you, Al. I think I'm on the same page with everyone else here. As far as promoting the demolition of buildings in the downtown area, absolutely not. As far as how this should be handled, I believe the free market should take its place. If there's a business owner who wants to rent and someone's willing to rent, then let it happen. Let the free market do its work. As far as the parking requirements and restrictions, I agree with Mr. Tucker. I think that these need to be reduced significantly, but I don't support promoting the demolition of buildings at all. Thank you, Al.
Thanks, Matt. Mary?
The way I thought about this question is I really struggled with it a little bit, and I realized I felt it was the wrong question, perhaps, or maybe not the full question. So I'm generally in favor of re-examining, refining issues of parking requirements and zoning changes, and the reason that I'm in favor of taking a look at those things is that in organizations or cities, a lot of these things get stuck in time and never challenged, and time marches on, and you do need to take a look at what's going on so that you can consistently create zoning and parking requirements that match where you're going. So we have this new plan, and I would be in favor of taking a look at these zoning questions against this master plan. And it's like someone I was talking to said, if you get the zoning correct, then the free market will do the work to create the future of our city. I think that includes things like height limits that protect what we care about. I think that it's doable, that we can have our quaint small town, and we don't have control over everyone's property, but I think that we can create a vision and aspire to what we want things to look like in 10, 20, 50, and 100 years, because the decisions now is what will drive that. But we have to get to the root of the issue and talk about questions like, yes, density, pedestrian-friendly, diverse population-friendly, business-friendly, values-friendly, and inside of that broader conversation, I think we would come to the right decisions that match where we're headed. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Danny?
Thanks, Al. As Mary mentioned, I thought this question was kind of a little tricky. I think the question seems to be talking about parking, but in a way talking about historical preservation, so I think Al was setting us up. But in that respect, I am definitely would not be in favor of destroying any of the older buildings that make our downtown how awesome our downtown is. I've also have not been in favor of reducing the parking requirements that we currently have. I would be amenable to looking into evaluating possible incentives, accommodating specific cases on a case-by-case basis when it makes sense. We've also at the council evaluated alternatives to make sure that we have more of a retail feel for the downtown rather than an office feel, but we haven't really taken any specific actions on that, so hopefully that will be before us soon. But these are really complex issues, and an easy answer says we're going to remove the parking requirements. I don't think answers the question and could create a lot more worse questions. And I think as far as how many, I think Al says how many buildings is enough to destroy, which is, again, he's trying to set us up. I think my answer there is, basically, the ownership of the buildings in downtown is a private issue. These private owners have the ability to do whatever they can within the zoning requirements, and we're not going to be able to tell somebody, well, once 5 buildings are down, we can stop tearing down old buildings in downtown. Thank you.
Thanks, Annie.